Hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for the Stationery Styling Series. As many of you know, this project has been in the works for a couple of months now, and I've just been taking some time to gather sponsors for the series, as well as kind of figure out how the series should be divided, since I had always planned on doing it in 3 parts. So I'm excited because today is going to specifically be part 1, and part 1 is going to be all about styling props and the best props to use when you are styling stationery. I'm going to go ahead and dive in here to introduce you to my 3 lovely sponsors that I have for this series. My first sponsor is Honey Silks & Company, and I seriously could not be more excited to be able to use their ribbon throughout this series. Their ribbon is actually my personal go-to. I use them all the time for styling a whole bunch of things. Both of these suites right here are tied with Honey Silks & Co. ribbon. These spools right here, of course, theirs. And most recently, I just had these arrive, which I purchased these because I was just so excited about the new ribbons that they had in the shop. So I have these as well, and I'm actually probably going to be styling with them looking like this because I just love how they look. I just think they are just so cute. All of the ribbons are excellent quality. I honestly have never had an issue with any of them, and I am so thankful that I get to work with Honey Silks & Co. for this series. My next sponsor is Marbella Dish, and these guys here are the cute little styling dishes that I received from them. And here is their information. You can find them at marbelladish.com. Keep in mind, all of these sponsors will be linked below, because they have dedicated their materials to be part of this series. So I definitely want to be able to support them in their businesses. Something important to note about these is they're actually made out of a different material, not ceramic. It is some sort of a poly-based plastic material. It is on the website. And it's all stated on there. And honestly though, the thing I love about them is that when you're photographing, you would never be able to tell the difference. So these are great and perfect for styling with stationery, because I mean, just look how lovely the dish looks with those little golden rims. I really like them because they bring a whole new texture to flat lays. So once again, that is Marbella Dish, and I am so lucky that they sent me some things. And my third and final sponsor is based here in Georgia as well, because obviously when you're getting live flowers, you want them to be provided to you very fresh. And so these flowers up here were donated by Gold and Bloom, and I'm super excited to be involved with her. I'm gonna go ahead and just launch into why these products are great for stationery, because there's a couple reasons why I have chosen them, and there are also some additional props that I have here as well that I would love to show you as other examples. I went ahead and shifted around a couple of items for this scene or shot. Just to show you something that's super important to recognize when you're styling stationery. A lot of times the typical size for a stationery envelope is going to be 7 inches wide and 5 inches tall. So right now I have it oriented, the whole suite is oriented vertically. But when you think about it, each of those pieces of paper are not very big, which means if we pull in a prop that is too large, it's gonna outweigh the stationery, and that's something super important to remember. Believe it or not, I have seen stationery shot with terrariums before that are literally like this big, which makes really no practical sense when you're trying to kind of focus on the stationery and bring in props that are accents to the stationery. So we don't want to overpower our paper pieces, which is why everything that I have chosen here just has such a small and almost like miniature feel to it. That's why a ring box is perfect as well, because it's so small and it's just going to be an additional detail to make the suite look beautiful. I laid out all the ribbons here so that you could see the beautiful colors that I have. This suite went perfectly actually with the ribbons from Honey Silks and Company that Jamie sent me, because this suite had accents of blush and blue, and these ribbons really pair with it beautifully. So when you do try to style your suite, try to have things that are complementing the pieces of paper that you're using. For example, I would probably not use this ring box with this suite just because the ring box is green. Now, because it is the only ring box I have, I might be using it in some of my examples, but I will also clarify when I'm using it that it wouldn't be necessarily my color of choice. Like if I could get one that was blue or get one that was blush, that would be perfect for this suite, because the whole photo and the whole way that you're going to style the invitations, it just needs to be cohesive, and we can't have items that are outweighing each other. Another thing that I included here was this beautiful hand-turned pen holder. I picked this one out of all the ones that I own because it has such a natural finish to it. I have some that are bold colors, but I want to make sure, like I said, that they complement my suite. And this just adds such like a personal touch, especially for me as a calligrapher, and the fact that the suite that I used here is calligraphed on many different elements. I wanted to be able to incorporate this in styling. So that's just another element that I chose. I also wanted to pull in another thing real quick. I use this cute little glass case to store a bunch of my mini props that I have and that I use as well. So I'll go ahead and open this up. And this is one of these props that, even though it's super pretty, this is actually too big, this piece itself, to photograph with any of my stationery. I have tried it before and I just find that it outweighs my pieces too severely, so I try to avoid that. Inside this box, I do have another little bowl with my mini clothespins in them if I ever did want to use those. I have a couple of these gold binder clips. I have cases of nibs, which I don't really use these guys for styling. These are for storage. I'll set those aside. But I do have this beautiful glass jar that I have put some nibs into. And this is the perfect piece for styling. I love that it's glass. It's super dainty. A lot of times I'll set it over and I'll make it look like the nibs are kind of, that they've kind of like tipped out of the jar or spilled out. I really like that look. That's just me, personally. So I use that one. It can be tricky with lighting because, as you notice, since it is glass, it blends into the background a little bit, but I have had success with that depending on how I layer it with the ribbon. These are another wonderful item from Honey Silks & Co. I use them for styling a lot. And this ribbon is also a Honey Silks & Co. as well. So those are just more examples of other products. It is also important to keep in mind that when you're choosing pieces that you're going to be using for styling, you want to try to choose pieces that have a similar theme to them, if that makes sense. I probably wouldn't want to be using pieces that are antique looking with pieces that are extremely modern. So for example, I don't think these paired together are the best fit because in my mind these strike me as more modern and this strikes me as very antique. But that is also up to personal taste because sometimes people like to mix things a little bit. And then I I'm trying to think if there's anything else here that I wouldn't explicitly pair with the other, but more than anything, I just wanted to kind of add that as an additional note as something to think about when you are choosing props for styling your stationery. Also, one last item that I almost forgot to add is my wonderful wax seal stamp. This to me is just very vintage yet still elegant, and I think it still does have enough of a pretty modern look to it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and sit this down here. I really think it's important when you're styling a suite to have small little fillers that you can include to help kind of fill the space when you're styling your stationery pieces. So nibs work perfectly for that. The little binder clips work perfectly. I've seen people use foreign coins before. And then another thing to keep in mind is that if I can turn these flowers around, we have some really pretty greenery elements here that if you would take one of these little guys off, you'd be able to set it within the suite to kind of offset some things. And I just got stuff from that all over the styling board. That's okay. And then we'll also be using the flowers within the styling as well to just bring a pop of nature, I guess, a pop of natural beauty to our styled suite. One more thing I do want to mention before I go ahead and wrap up on the first part of this series is that it has taken me a very long time to slowly accumulate props that I really enjoy and love. None of this was accumulated overnight by any means. My wax seal is pretty recent, as within the last month. I was lucky enough that I received this beautiful ring box as a wedding gift from my mother-in-law. This little glass jar and this bowl were just just purchased within the last month. These scissors, I've been lucky to have these for multiple months now, but all of this has been gained and kind of added to my styling collection over many months and a long amount of time, because you're never going to be able to find things that you really like for your styling overnight. That's just not going to work, unfortunately, especially when it comes to finding things that match your brand as well, because that's super important to be using props in a way that reflects your business. So definitely don't forget that aspect of it as well, because what you see me using here might be absolutely lovely, but you might already be noticing that maybe one of these items or a couple of these items wouldn't fit your brand in certain aspects, and that is definitely all right, because to each their own. All right, so one more time, I need to give a shout out to my wonderful sponsors. Here is Marbella Dish, marbelladish.com. Justine makes these lovely marbled dishes that are great for styling. And then another sponsor is Lovely Honey Silks & Co. And you can find them at honeysilks.com. And then last but not least, we have our lovely Gold and Bloom flowers over here. I'm sad that I do not have her business card, but I will make sure to link her down below. So if you guys want to see the links for these companies and some information, additional information, then make sure that you go to the description of the video, because I post a whole bunch of things down there. Thank you so much for joining me. I think that pretty much wraps up part 1 of the Stationery Styling Series. I cannot wait to get to part 2 and part 3. Part 2, I'll talk a little more about how to get a good setup for your lighting, even if you're convinced that there is no good place for you to photograph. Hopefully I can help give you some good tips to find some lighting within your home, as well as going over some additional information about the styling board, because I did not talk about this today, and then talking as well about general layout tips for stationery. And then the third video will be dedicated entirely to stationery layout, as well as the common do's and don'ts for stationery styling. So I hope that you guys stick around for the rest of it, and definitely subscribe to my channel as well as like this video, and please leave any comments that you have below. I love hearing from you guys, and I try to answer as much as I can. So have a great rest of your day.